The government is watching us through the light. Hi!
Hi! Alright, so we're going to tell you about our International Day of Listening project. And again, I know we know each other, but I guess we could introduce ourselves. I'm Emmeline.
I'm Jade. That's Emmeline. Just to be clear, I'm Jade. Okay. Yeah, this is our project. So today is September 20th, and the International Day of Listening was yesterday, the 19th. However, in retrospective celebration, we basically put out a sign that said, in honor, if you can see there, in honor of the International Day of Listening, come talk to us. And that's all we said on our advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
And then, they say the same thing, right?
So we took this sign and we also took a board for pledges, and we created these little pieces of paper that basically just say, I take the pledge to listen to another person today. And we took all these items as well as a handout from the International Day of Listening website with 10 suggestions for those who choose to listen. We took all this content and we brought it to the walkway in between, kind of in front of the Lowry Student Center, or Lori, I don't actually know how you pronounce it. Anyway.
Tomato.
Yeah. And so we had a table that we lugged over there, and we set up all of our stuff on the table, and we had some Hershey's Kisses that we laid out on the table, and we just kind of talked to people.
We just kind of posted up, and Emmeline and I didn't go in with like some preconceived plan of how we were gonna address people.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really know if people would be highly curious and we should just kind of stand there. We ended up taking a little bit of a more active approach and grabbed some flyers, and then just kind of read each other's language and like how if I saw something working for her, I would kind of emulate that, go stand deeper into the crowd of people as they were walking by. And the flyers were kind of a good way for us to start a conversation, like, hey, would you like to learn something about listening, or would you like some information on the International Day of Listening? Emmeline was a little bit more successful in offering chocolates to people and probably got more bites and hits than I did. But one thing we found interesting about that is we were just talking about how we framed this listening booth or stand or opportunity the same way like an informative booth would be framed, or like someone trying to get you to sign up for something or to sell you something, or all of those like solicitors and just kind of tablings you see on campus.
Mm-hmm.
We looked very much like one of those, and we thought, well, it's fitting because this is just what people do in that arena. But I think that because we were set up in that way and in that space, people thought that we only had something to say.
Mm-hmm.
And we were ignored more so because of that. And Emmeline, I don't know if you want to speak to people like having a plan.
Yeah, so our goal with this was to have someone talk to us. And there were so many people that, first off, would just zoom by because they thought that we had something to tell them. Like, people would just have their headphones in or their head down or actively not make eye contact and just zoom on by. Or I'd say, do you want a chocolate, or would you like a handout with some information on the International Day of Listening and how to listen today? And people really did not think twice about, nope, we're not even saying no, just zooming on by without saying anything. So I thought that was interesting. So we had to kind of find some ways to go to work through that a little bit and to get people to stop. So it looked different every time. At some points, I would catch people with the chocolate, and then she'd catch people with the handout. And at some points, there were people that just came up to us, or there were people that would look at our sign and kind of linger for a little bit, and then we'd have, enough time to kind of catch them. But yeah.
And then speaking in terms of people we did catch, we did have a couple of our loyal colleagues come and stop by, and it was nice to have their support because they kind of we've had a lot of conversations today and just have been listening to each other in like a departmental realm. And in the spirit of that, I think everyone was just feeling like they were ready to. I think a lot has been said in our cohort today, and they were just ready to go hit the town, hit the bar, go listen to someone about their week. So many of you all, our colleagues, came and signed a pledge, which we have up here, just to listen. And there was like a big group of people that came over, so we didn't like intently listen to any of them. However, we had a couple significant, like, long conversations. I feel like there wasn't a lot of middle ground. It was either, hey, hello, here's some information, or I was in a conversation. I started a conversation with someone, and then Emmeline jumped in, and we were all not bouncing back and forth, but I mean, we had a good conversation, and she was asking us a lot of questions, and I was like, I'm supposed to be listening to you, but you're asking me questions. And we talked to her for, 15 minutes probably, 10 or 15 minutes. And she was a tech researcher here on campus, and wanted to speak about her religion with us, and asked us about our class and our research and what we are learning about listening at a coursework level.
Mm-hmm.
And what else? Anything else?
We had a couple other conversations, and like I said before, a lot of the conversations started with people kind of coming up and saying, okay, I'm here, where's the information you're trying to give me? And so I then would just go into, here's the handout that we have, here's the information that we have on ways to listen, and would you like to take a pledge to listen to someone else? And I feel like that really got people thinking about, and it would start with, we're doing this because we forget how listening is actually work. So just in that statement, people would kind of stop and think, oh, you're right, it is. And something that I think is interesting is that Jade and I came into this with the mindset of, okay, we're going to stand there and we're just going to listen. However, of course, things don't happen naturally that way. We noticed. People don't just come up and say, I want to talk to you, even if your sign says we're here to come talk to us. And so maybe that was just a preconceived notion that we had of what listening is. But we also talked about something we could have done differently, which was how to open the door to listening right away. So we were kind of thinking of things that we could have done, like questions we could ask people. Because if I was to come up to someone and say, hi, how are you? They would have just said, good, and walked on by. Whereas if I had come up to someone and just stopped them and said, hi, what are you struggling with today? Mm-hmm. Or something like that, maybe that would be a different way to open the door to just listening to someone. But I think it's just challenging for this context because this isn't something that occurs often.
Yeah, and then that question of, are we probing, are we scaffolding or framing something that are we putting words in your mouth by saying, do you want to talk about this thing, when maybe you wanted to give your attention to something else that was going on in your head, and you didn't even know how to conceptualize that, or that you were holding on to something until you saw the broad offer to just listen or to be listened to. So we still are kind of in question of like, by saying anything other than I'm here to listen, or in the not framing or scaffolding in any way, is it going against so many of our social norms that it's just like almost breaking a societal code to just offer to listen and then to ask just to be listened to by a stranger?
Yeah.
So we will let you know when we find all those answers as hard facts.
Yeah. There were a couple other things that we kind of learned from this. I started thinking about how the age of who is breathing by us or stopping to talk to us might play into this. So, for example, a lot of the people who just breezed on by barely looked towards us as we were trying to hand them something were the undergraduate students or the undergraduate age students, which I think maybe just reflects a lot of the things arising on campus lately and how there's so much going on, especially with protesting, things being written around campus, booths being up, etc. I almost don't blame them that they would want to just walk by another booth right now, just with like all of the things being thrown at them. It's kind of just a thought that I had, but then we also were thinking the conversations that we did have. The longest conversation was with an older woman, and so I was considering maybe the fact that she has maybe more life experience or whatnot prompted her to stop and come to our table. And the reason that she actually said that she thought critically about listening recently was because she worked in a hospice center and had to learn how to listen to her patients who were dying. And I thought that was just interesting. And she shared that she actually fell out of that practice when she left that job. And she posed the question to us as to why, which I thought was just a challenging thing and an interesting thing to think about. But again, I just go back to how maybe it's just her life experience that she had that caused her to be able to say, I want to pay attention to this right now. Listening is important. Let's talk about this. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. That might not be the case for other people who are younger, might not understand. Maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe they don't care. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
Implications for future research.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that about sums up our main questions that we have coming out, our main summary. Please talk to us more if you have any questions about our phenomenological experience.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening.